Hey, everybody, it's February 3rd, 2025, and this is episode 21 of We Need to Talk About This. I'm Chuck Oliveris. Welcome. Well, greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to We Need to Talk About This. I'm your host, Chuck Oliveris. Another Tuesday, another week into 2025. Welcome back to the podcast. We got some stuff for you this week. Current events, things that happened during the week. We're also going to talk about that serial killer. There's a million podcasts about serial killers and murder podcasts and things like that. I'm not doing one of those. There's just this one specific serial killer I saw a documentary on. I can't remember if it was Netflix or Hulu. You've probably seen it if you watch those kind of shows. And it's a guy named Isreal Keys, and we're going to talk about him in this episode as well. So we'll get to that stuff later. Before that, I wanted to just tell you something I was thinking about before I started the podcast. I was sitting here queuing things up and getting the podcast ready, and I was thinking about how funny my mother was and some of the things she used to say, and I kind of had to chuckle to myself. But we were huge Elvis Presley fans in my family, except for my mother. She just wasn't. She didn't have any kind of like goo women stuff about Elvis Presley like other women did and stuff. And I used to laugh because my mother always used to say, "I wouldn't walk across the street to see Elvis Presley," and I'd be like, "Mom, now, you know damn well if Elvis Presley was across the street from the house right now, you go over there and say hi to Elvis." And she goes, no, I wouldn't. And I used to just laugh about that. And she said that for years. And then there was this other guy back in the day when Johnny Carson was on The Tonight Show. There was an entertainer named Tiny Tim. Some of you that are my age will probably remember him. He sang this little song called Tiptoe Through the Tulips, and it was like tiptoe through the tulips. It was this really weird song, and he played a little violin. He was not an attractive man, kind of heavy set. His hair looked real greasy and long. It was a big deal because he married some lady named Miss Vicky on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson at one point. But he's another one. My mother, every time he would come out and do The Tonight Show, my mother used to just cringe in her recliner and say, "I can smell him through the TV." Only my mother would say some shit like that. And I was just thinking about that before I started this tonight. And God bless you, Mom. Miss you. But those two things just were funny. I thought I'd share them with you. There's also two other things, two little jokes I was going to share with you. Most of my friends have been abused with my stupid jokes. My cousin Matto, who you all know from the podcast, comes on from time to time. Very funny, very crazy. He's a huge Star Trek fan, right? So he's got all this Star Trek stuff, and he loves Star Trek. And I have two Star Trek jokes, and I'm going to share them with you. They're kind of stupid, but they're also kind of funny. So the first one is, what does the USS Enterprise and toilet paper have in common? Think about that. What does the USS Enterprise and toilet paper have in common? Well, I'll tell you. They both circle your anus looking for Klingons. I know it's a little weak, but it's still funny, right? My favorite one of all, the second one that I always spit out to people, usually in the bar, is this one. It says, what did Spock find in the toilet? What did Dr. Spock find in the toilet? You know what he found? The captain's log. You know you love it. That one's funny. So is the Klingon toilet paper one. Feel free to use them. You're like, I heard that years ago. We're starting out the podcast this week with I didn't meme it because, you know, we like these. Found a couple of them this week I'm going to share with you, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to do them at the beginning of the podcast because I've got some other serious fun stuff I want to do. But so this first one is kind of funny, and it caught my eye when I saw it on social media this week. and I just started busting up. So for those of you on iHeart and Spotify, you're not going to be able to see this, but it's a meme of a cheeseburger, basically a cheeseburger, a picture of a cheeseburger. I'll throw it up for you guys on YouTube. And then it says squint your eyes. Well, for those of you guys that can't see it, it's a full-on big old fatty cheeseburger. But if you squint your eyes, it's Steve Harvey. It's so Steve Harvey. And it's weird, isn't it? It's like those other ones you see where it's like a bunch of buildings or something. But then as you look, it's the form of a person and it looks like somebody else. But this cheeseburger Steve Harvey thing, it just killed me. So I thought I had to share that on the podcast with you guys tonight. Pretty fun one right there. I don't know how many of you remember Patti Smith, okay, the old punk singer. Patti Smith was famous years ago. Everybody knows who she is. She sang a song called Because Tonight Belongs to Lovers. And I saw a picture of her pop up on TMZ this week. And she looks really old and stuff. But dude, so I'm going to show you a picture of her right now. And tell me that she does not look like Snape from Harry Potter. Look at her. She totally looks like Snape. Singer Patti Smith collapses on stage. Why? Because she's freaking old. So there she is. And I'm telling you, as soon as I saw that, I thought of Harry Potter right away because she looks like Snape. Next meme here. This is interesting. It's not actually a meme. It's actually a true thing. So I was looking up weird festivals in the United States and around the world and stuff. So this festival is a real festival, and it's called the Frozen Dead Guy Days. It's a festival that began in 1989 in Norway. The festival involves freezing a deceased person and then shipping them to California for cryogenic storage. What? Yeah, Frozen Dead Guy Days. So what? They all gather in a little village somewhere in Norway, and then they freeze a deceased person. So they're already dead, so I guess that's okay. But then they ship them on out here to California for cryogenetics. California, it's the place you ought to be. Swimming pools and dumbasses. We'll get to that in a few minutes. The next meme I saw cracked me up. It's a shot of the Hanson brothers, of course, the Mbop boys. And it says, want to feel old? Here's 90s pop band Hanson today. And then in the lower picture, what we're showing on YouTube, for those of you that can see it, is three old ladies with wigs that kind of similarly look like the three dudes in the Hansons. Those guys don't look like that anymore. And I'll tell you something else. They're actually super, super talented and super, super cool. But that one cracked me up. So if you see that anywhere, save it to your phone and tell everybody, look at it, check it out. That's what Hanson looks like today. This one caught my eye because it was kind of funny. It's an attorney for divorces. Those of you guys that can't see the sign on the door, but this is what it says: Ditcher, Quick, and Hide, divorce lawyers. So there's an attorney named Ditcher, another one named Quick, and another one named Hide. And it says Ditcher, Quick, and Hide, divorce lawyers. That's the one I'd go to. I mean, they're using the lingo and everything right on the door. How could you not want to go in that door? I mean, if you had a choice between attorneys, maybe better than Jacoby and Myers. I don't know. I'm just saying. And then I came across this little jewel on TMZ's social media. OnlyFans star plunges to her death from hotel balcony while filming a threesome. Okay. So first of all, it's OnlyFans, so that's amateur filming, right? I don't know what she did. If she climbed out on the ledge and these guys were getting her from both sides or what happened, but she fell off the fucking ledge and died. So that OnlyFans probably made a lot of money because of that. So in the end, she might have been smart, and I don't know. And one of the last memes, which is segueing into the current events this week with our new president and all the characters along with him, is this meme right here. And it shows Peter Griffin, and he's obviously at like a U.S. Customs thing, and it says ICE briefing, January 28, 2005. And the guy's holding up a chart next to Peter's face, and it says okay, and it's all light colors and white on the right. Not okay on the bottom is black, brown, and tan. And that was kind of a good meme. I'm like, I can't pass that one up. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. So we have a new thing that I'm going to start doing because we're a month and what into 2025. Donald Trump's president again. There's a lot going on. Everybody's talking about it. I have never seen people talk about this so much as they are right now. I mean, people actually getting on and wondering why people aren't paying attention. So this new part of my podcast is going to be called Pay Attention. Because the bottom line is there's a lot happening and they're throwing things in to distract you. And if you just use a little bit of brains and some fact checking from the credible fact checking platforms, you will see what's right and what's wrong. But the thing that's killing me is so many people are missing it, dude. And it's like, it's freaking me out a little bit. And so we got to talk about this. So current events are going to start off right here. This happened this week too. This is interesting. It has nothing to do with the Trump administration. It's a black gentleman here sitting in court at a desk, and it says this man spent 5 months in jail because no one told him his bail was just $2. This is a true story. He spent 5 months in a prison at Rikers Island, one of the most notorious and violent prisons, as everyone knows, in the country, because no one told him that his bail was set at only $2. Can you imagine all that time incarcerated, and then you find out that it was only $2 to get out, and nobody ever told you that? That is a breakdown of the system if I've ever heard it. So that kind of sucks. And I felt bad for that guy. It's a true story. You can look it up. 5 months in the jail. Rikers Island, of all places. Dude, you know what Rikers Island is, right? Oh, my God. So when the news, the whole fake news and all that stuff came out a couple of years ago, and everybody was claiming fake news. Donald Trump was doing it more than anybody. But it became a point in our lives where we just didn't know what was real and what wasn't, which is kind of what we're right back to again. And even myself, growing up in the era that I did with very credible news people that you knew you could trust. America trusted these people and stuff. We have a lot of different news outlets now, and a lot of it's BS, as you know. We all know about Fox News, CNN, all kinds of different things going on and stuff. But one of the people I always respected, because I grew up with him, and he was a legit journalist, newsman, and I'll always respect him and believe him. He started this thing called News and Guts, and it's Dan Rather. He founded News and Guts, an independent production company, in 2006, and he's the company's president. He monitors everything that they report because he wants to make sure it is accurate and so forth. So I follow his stuff because I trust him, and I know that the facts of the matter are going to be correct. So that's called News and Guts. And one of the things that he threw up on his platform this week was this guy right here from CNN. Of course, that's the host. A lot of people know a lot of people know this guy. You probably recognize him from his face, CNN reporter, and his name is Jim Acosta. So Jim Acosta just dropped the mic at CNN. After 18 years, he walked away live on air, refusing to take a demotion that would have buried his show in the midnight slot. In his final sign-off, he reminded everyone why he does this job, calling out the lies, standing up to power, and refusing to bow to tyrants. He told viewers straight, don't give in to the lies, don't give in to the fear, hold on to the truth and to hope. Another venture that he's going to go on, or he has another venture he's going to go on, and he's not backing down. But let's be real, this isn't just about one journalist. American journalists are being targeted for doing their jobs, and it's happening in broad daylight. We've seen this in the playbook before, silencing the press, punishing those who refuse to parrot propaganda. It's absolutely shocking. In 2025, we're watching history repeat itself in real time, like a slow motion replay of Nazi Germany. And he ends it with sad. So Jim Acosta, God bless you. And God bless you for speaking your mind and speaking the truth, and for the way you handled yourself and stuff. So he's no longer there. And also in current events this week, everybody's talking about the Kennedy guy, right? Let's see, where is he? Here we go. RFK Jr., he's 71 years old, looks 91. He has a fried brain from being an IV heroin addict for 14 years. He claims a worm ate his brain. I know you guys have seen this dude. He's not a doctor, has zero medical background, degree, or training. He's a wacko, anti-vaxxer, and totally unfit for Director of Health and Human Services. Forgive me for not wanting him in charge of our nation's health. Well, this plays into a lot of the people that have been picked to be a part of the cabinet and the administration under the Trump regime. You guys, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to know what kind of people should be running these departments and heading them. And if everybody really thinks this guy should be in charge of our nation's health, there's something really wrong there. I mean, I said it before in the last podcast, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. It doesn't take a whole lot to figure out that it doesn't fucking make sense. And he ain't the only one, right? All these people that are appointed, no experience in their fields of the job they're about to undertake and so forth. So it kind of just kills me. And that brings me to our little friend Elon Musk here. So this is something somebody posted the other day. It's a picture of Elon, and then it says, if a monkey hoarded more bananas than it could eat, while most of the other monkeys starved, scientists would study that monkey to figure out what the heck was wrong with it. When humans do it, we put them on the cover of Forbes magazine. Totally agree. This guy is so whack. I could go on and on about him, and I am going to go on about him real quick for a minute because I'm talking about these people being appointed to things or controlling things they're not qualified to control, but you guys do understand it does not take a brain surgeon to realize they're not being picked because of their experience to run that particular program or that division or that part of the government. They're being picked for other reasons, okay? There's distractions there because they don't want you to know what they're really doing. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Elon Musk. So here's the thing here that kills me about this guy. Musk is staging a physical takeover. This has already happened of key government agencies, locking officials and staffers out of computer access. Computers hold personal information and payout information, including Social Security and Medicare. Reuters reports that the DOGE aides of Elon Musk have locked staffers of the U.S. government Human Resources Agency out of the computer systems, along with millions of employees and personal information. Even the senior officials of the Office of Personnel Management have had their access to the data systems revoked. We have no visibility into what they are doing with the computer and the data systems. One of the officials said, that is creating great concern. There is no oversight. It creates real cybersecurity and hacking implications. There is now, since Trump's firing of government inspectors general, no oversight of either Trump or Musk. One key database the OPM officials cited is Enterprise Human Resources Integration, which has all of the birth dates, social security numbers, appraisals, home addresses, pay grades, and lengths of service of all government workers. The Office of Personnel Management is a nonpartisan agency that manages the federal workforce and would typically be consulted ahead of any significant personal changes. They were not informed of this proposal. People familiar with the situation told the Washington Post. In the week since Trump took office, Musk has moved to take control of that office, according to the Post. He visited the office on Friday and put several of his longtime allies in key positions. Musk had a sofa bed brought into the OPM office to ensure his personal team could work nonstop. The area can only be accessed with special security badges or a security escort, an OPM employee states. That includes Anthony Armstrong, who helped Musk buy Twitter, according to the Post. Others include Brian, I want to say is Bajeldi from SpaceX, and Amanda Scales, who worked with Musk at an AI firm. The trio are now in leadership positions in that office. Musk's team also built the system that sent 2.3 million government employees an email last week offering buyouts to anyone who voluntarily leaves their job. That system did not exist before Trump took office, or the Post noted. The email was very similar to the one sent by Musk to Twitter employees after he took over. The DOGE was originally created to supply ideas to Trump on cutting government waste. This was exchanged by executive order by Trump on his first day in office to upgrading IT services. Apparently, this is what was intended for Musk to physically take over computers, storing sensitive information and locking the government agencies out of it completely. What happens next is unknown. Meanwhile, the highest ranking career Treasury official resigned today over DOGE access to sensitive payment systems, including, here we go, guys, Social Security and Medicare. David Liebrecht, who has served in non-political roles as the Treasury Department since 1989, the Washington Post reports. He was appointed as acting Treasury Secretary by President Donald Trump, and Scott Bessent was confirmed, or until Scott Bessent was confirmed. Liebrecht had a dispute with DOGE officers or officials over access to payment systems that disperse trillions of dollars for government services, including Social Security and Medicare. The system also pays out tax refunds, salaries for federal workers, and payments to government contractors. DOGE officials have been asking for access to the system since the election. Why do they want it, and what do they intend to do with it? They don't know. The update on this is Trump announced at 5 p.m. Friday a pause of all government websites effective immediately. Some departments have already gone dark while unknown changes are being made. I'm going to say it again. This kind of shit, there's more to it, right? What do you think they're locking all those people out? Most of them were like nonpartisan people, right? Running these things, kind of a checks and balances for our systems, our Social Security, our government contracts and things like that. Now you got Elon Musk and his clowns running it, this weirdo SpaceX dude, and shutting everybody out of it. By the way, I want to tell you something. I was watching something with some attorney earlier this week, and he was telling all those people who got that letter from the president and from Elon about trying to buy them out, and if they didn't quit, they would be locked out anyway, and their positions would go away. Supposedly, legally, the president cannot do that. They want them to leave on their own, so it makes it easier for them to get in there. Well, they're already in there, and guess what? They already have all our shit. So I don't know, guys. I'm just saying we need to talk about this. I just don't understand. It does not take a person of a very high IQ to figure out that somebody's up to something, right? And here's the other thing that chaps my ass. Elon Musk, Tesla paid zero federal income tax in 2024, despite a $2.3 billion income. This brings Tesla's average tax rate over the past 3 years to 0.4%. I want that tax rate. I want that break. Do you see what I'm saying? Does it really take a brain surgeon? Is anybody paying attention? You should be paying attention. They throw a lot of jargon in between everything, and hidden in there are things they've already done or putting into place, and they're distracting you with their jargon because they're really doing something else. It's already happening. Today, I went to go into town from where I live, and there was already protests all up and down the main boulevard in the town below us. Latin Americans, Latinos with signs talking about the deportation and all that stuff, which, by the way, it's like the terrorists, right? You know who terrorists hurt, right, guys? They hurt us. Okay, we don't get our products, then they're going to say, we're not giving you ours, and which is what's happening. That's exactly what's happening right now. And I don't know why people don't understand. We pay for those out of our own tax money. And then the prices go up because we're not getting those products because we have imposed these tariffs and they're imposing them back on us. And you can hear it and you can see it already. In this week alone, all of those people are standing in a spot where they're like, screw you, not doing it. So it's only going to get more interesting as it goes. And then the other thing, this is super disturbing, right? And this is what I mean. All in a week's time here, or a week and a half, whatever you want to call it. Funding for WIC is now frozen. It provides food for women, infants, and children across the United States. A pediatrician, as a pediatrician, this is the doctor who wrote this. He says, I see the benefit of WIC for kids and families every day. Without WIC, quite frankly, babies and kids in America will starve. Now's a moment to ask what pro-life means. I mean, all this stuff, I mean, we all see it and we're all talking about it. And I've never seen social media lit up so much right now with people just getting on and filming their opinions and saying things. And it's like, okay, there's a quite big crowd of people that understand what's really going on. And then there's the others that are just like, I guess they don't care because they didn't care before. They didn't care when all kinds of other things were happening in the last term. So it's kind of hard to take. It really is. Also in current events this week, Trump blames the Joe Biden administration for the plane collision. We've heard a lot about this. He blames Joe Biden administration for the plane collision. I started reading some of the comments on News and Guts, Dan Rather's post after this. One of the comments was, the guy who fired everybody who could have prevented this blames the guy who didn't fire anybody before he left the office. The next comment said, he should never be allowed anywhere near a microphone. He never offers anything useful or constructive, only inflames the situation. And one of the last comments was a guy that wrote, most U.S. citizens are disgusted with our president. He does not represent the majority of Americans. I heard a number and I wasn't sure if it was correct and I haven't had time to fact check it, but I thought I heard something like 60-something% of the country voted for Mr. Trump, which really, if that is a correct number, is really not as much as I thought it was. So there's obviously plenty of people here, and you'll see it. If just go on your social media and you'll see people, they're looking at these things that they're doing and they're moving fast with it, right? They're doing it for a reason. They're moving fast for a reason. And again, a monkey can understand it. It's interesting too. Dick Van Dyke, really getting up there in age and stuff. He was on a talk show recently, and this is something he said. What was it he put here? There are millions of people who share his anger, paranoia, and his hatred. That's what bothers me, he says. It really sounds like the dumbing down of America. Some of the people I talk to have a fuzzy line between Constitution and the Bible. I think we have to stop a man who wants to be the dictator. It bothers me that people can't read him. It's such a bare exposure of greed and lust for power. And it does seem like that. I mean, he kind of has came from that. I mean, he was born into a family, you know, money and stuff, and he's always kind of been like that. So, I mean, it does kind of sound like that's the deal. I mean, I don't know. You guys have to make your own opinions and stuff, but I think all we're asking people to do is pay attention. And with that, I got to leave you on the current event thing with a couple things I saw today. This is the first one I saw, and it says, in a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And that was from George Orwell. I think it says a lot. Things are getting serious. They're going to get more serious. I think we're going to see a lot more pushback from people than the administration thinks they're going to see. And I think it's going to build and build and build. And I don't know what's going to happen from there, but we're all going to find out, aren't we? And this is the thing that bothers me. This is kind of how I feel. It's the people that aren't bothered by any of this that bother me. And that's true. That is a true statement. It bothers me that it doesn't bother them. They know what they're doing, but it hasn't affected them personally yet, but it's going to. They're all going to wake up. I really, truly believe this and be like, holy shit. What do you mean he's doing this? What do you mean they're doing that? Yeah. They're taking away your workers' comp. They're taking away your Social Security because we're going to give that to the billionaires. It's not a secret. Like I said, this has been being talked about for a long time. It's not a secret at all. And the last one I saw that really was interesting too was this one here. And it says, I was asked, are you willing to lose friends over politics? And then the other person says, I'm willing to lose friends over morals. There's a huge difference. Okay, that's how I feel. I'm not going to lose my friends over politics because I don't even like politics because it's all bullshit and it's all lies. Both sides, the government. I'm down to deport criminals that came over to this country. If they have a criminal record, yes, deport them. But we're not just doing that. And I said that on last week's podcast. And you know we're not just doing that. You've seen what they're doing. And it's devastating. Who was it I saw? Selena Gomez on her Instagram crying last week because she is obviously of Latino descent like myself. And she was just crying and crying, apologizing to her people because of the way this was being handled. It's not just people that were criminal records that they're going and pulling with their little ICE teams and stuff. So it's very, very, very disturbing. So that one stuck with me. You know, I am willing to lose friends over morals because in the end, you guys, it comes down to morals. And if you don't think that, then you don't have any morals. You don't care either. So I guess you're in the right place, maybe, huh? All I'm asking everyone to do is pay attention. And we're going to continue this category because we can't not continue it on the podcast because so much is moving so quick and going so fast. All right, so let's jump to the next topic, which, of course, is my serial killer topic. If you're looking at the screen on YouTube, I'm showing the top serial killers. We all know Richard Ramirez, Dahmer, BTK killer, Son of Sam. You got, what's his name, Bundy on there. So these are the most famous ones, of course, but I was sitting one night watching my murder documentaries and I came across this serial killer I knew nothing about. Now, some of you have already heard about him. His name is Isreal Keys. And I want to talk about this because I said I was going to a couple podcasts ago. So the deal with this guy is Isreal Keys, and this was January 31st, 2024. Serial killer Isreal Keys likely murdered 11 people between 2001 and 2012. And then it says, read about his daughter and the murder of Samantha Koenig. Well, that was the one that got me tuned into the documentary because they start the documentary with Samantha Koenig. And I had not heard of this Isreal Keys guy. And there's so many weird things about this dude. He got away with it for so long. They still don't know how many he actually murdered and killed because he would only admit to a few. He was very remorseful about the whole thing. He didn't care, kind of giggled about it and laughed when they interrogated him and stuff. But this gal here, so this is a little coffee shop up in Anchorage, Alaska, and it's called, what is it? Common Ground. Yeah. So Isreal Keys abducted this female, Samantha Koenig, from the Common Grounds coffee stand on Tudor Road in Anchorage, Alaska on February 1st in 2012. He took her against his will to his white pickup truck in the parking lot across the street. And then the charges against Keys alleged that he confined her and intentionally killed her early the next morning. So this is a trip how he did this, dude. And it was weird watching it because they had videotape, not of him killing her, but of abducting her and stuff. There's a wanted poster here I'm going to put up for you to read real quick. Kidnapped from Anchorage, Alaska, $41,000 reward, Samantha Koenig. And it's just saying that she was abducted from the coffee shop and they were trying to find her and find her forever. What's a trip is when you're watching the video footage in the coffee shop when they were investigating this and pulling film and stuff. It's like, it was weird. And like I said, it's what sucked me into wanting to know more like who this guy was. I hadn't heard about him. I know all those we all know the other serial killers, right? And I guess there's a bunch we don't know. And I read something last night. I was watching another show and they said someone goes missing every 4 minutes in the United States. You guys, that's every 4 minutes. Every 4 minutes, somebody goes missing. And that's kind of freaky, right? So back to this Samantha Koenig here in the coffee shop. I'm showing up a picture right now of CCTV coverage from inside the little coffee hut here. Real pretty girl. The thing is, you and I both know Alaska. There's not a lot of people living up there, so that's already kind of scary. And the law enforcement is limited as far as the areas that they have to cover and stuff. But here she is in the CCTV. She's taking orders or whatever inside the coffee shop here. When he comes up to the window, which is in this shot right here, you see her putting her hands up right here. This is the film I watched. So what he does, you guys, is she does this, and the cops are kind of watching it going, well, how did he get her out of the coffee shop? Did he go in or whatever? He jumped through that freaking window, that little window they serve the coffee through. He told her to turn the lights off. She turns around to turn the lights off. And while she does that, he dives through that little window. It's in a parking lot, completely out the open where people could see, but it was late at night and it's Anchorage, Alaska. Nobody sees it. He gets into that thing and he abducts her from there. So more information on Isreal Keys killed 4 people in Washington. Identities unknown from 2001 to 2006. Deborah Feldman, Hackensack, New Jersey in 2009. Lorraine Currier, Exis Junction in Vermont, and Samantha Koenig, who I'm talking about right now in Anchorage, Alaska, and that was 2012. What's interesting about this guy is he's just so calm about the way he did it too. You know, he gets into the coffee shop and he jumps through that window and he basically takes her against her will, and we see him on the CCTV coverage pulling her across the street to his truck in the parking lot and then leaving with her. So what he does with her, let me see if it covers it here. Apart from Koenig, who was abducted from the Anchorage coffee shop where she worked, and Bill and Lorraine Currier, the middle-aged married couple who were murdered in 2011 in Vermont, Keys discussed 7 or 8 other victims. We want to identify him, is what the police are saying. So investigators believe that Keys killed and buried a victim in upstate New York in April of 2009. He also told the police about a couple in Washington State, which we just mentioned, and another victim in that area, and possibly others in surrounding states. FBI agents are working with law enforcement around the clock to link Keys to open cases. If we have a missing persons identified in a particular area, we work closely with that local police department to either connect the person to Keys or not, the police explained. We have his DNA. Well, of course, that's how they do it, right? Cold cases or whatever, and then they match the DNA and say, well, it sounds like the same kind of, what do you call it, MO. And so they think, well, maybe we better look at that a little more closely. During the course of a 48-hour investigation into the murders of serial killer Isreal Keys, the FBI promised revealing important details never before made public. When the producers Chris O'Connell and Anthony Venditti entered the meeting room at the Anchorage, Alaska FBI field office, they didn't realize how much or how unnerving that promise would be. One by one, FBI agent Jolene Gooden and looks like Catherine Nelson began placing sheets of paper before us, the producer said. Each sheet featured a haunting hand-painted image of a human skull with eyes looking back at us. The artist was the killer, Isreal Keys, and the paint he used was his own blood. So I'm going to show you those in a little bit. He did that with his own blood and stuff. And each one represented kills, people that he had killed and stuff. And I wanted to tell you what was crazy when he took Samantha Koenig from that little coffee shop and put her in a truck. He drove home, dude, and he drug her into like a C-train cage in his driveway, or I don't like a container, like they make container homes out of. He locked her in there until the morning, went inside his house where his daughter and his current wife were, and slept like a baby, pulled her out in the morning and dismembered her and killed her, and then dropped her in the water out in the middle of nowhere. Real icy water too. I think they had to break the ice and start digging parts out. So super creepy, and he's just like super bold and very calm about it. Of course, he raped her several times. He did that to all his victims. Let's see what else we got on. Keys killed himself eventually after he was arrested. He killed himself by slitting one of his wrists and strangling himself with bedding, police said. he left behind an extensive 4-page note that expressed no remorse, no offer to any clues of any other slayings. Investigators said he had a meticulous and organized approach to his crimes, stashing weapons, cash, and items used to dispose of bodies in several locations to prepare for future crimes. Authorities have dug up 2 of those caches, one in Eagle River, Alaska, outside Anchorage, one near a reservoir in the mountains of New York. Keys also said he robbed banks to finance his travels, and investigators have collaborated his role in 2 holdups, the FBI said. So he had these, what they called murder kits. The detectives say it's a painstaking process, made more complicated because Keys was meticulous about covering his tracks. In the Courier case, for example, he flew from Alaska to Chicago, rented a car, drove 1,000 miles to Vermont, where he searched for victims. He chose the Couriers at random. The Couriers were an older couple there in Virginia or Vermont that he killed. Keys also left murder kits in various locations around the country that contained, among other items, weapons and cash. The money came from bank robberies he committed to support his criminal activities. They provided further cover because Keys didn't have to risk boarding an airplane with a weapon or using credit cards that could later connect him to the crime in a particular area. He was very, very smart, very calm about it, and just a really, really creepy dude. And I had not heard about this guy, so I was tripping about that. If you're watching YouTube, I'm going to show you one of his murder kits here. This is one of the buckets they found. This one was in New York and was stowed in a watertight bucket. Materials inside included a .22 caliber Ruger weapon without stock, empty magazines, ammunition, and a silencer. And then he would go all around the country, you guys, and he financed his trips to do that, like they said, by robbing banks, which he never got caught doing either. This photo shows a hidden bag, a kill kit at Blake Falls Reservoir once they removed some rocks. So they're out there searching, and they'd find them. But what he would do is just travel around, prepare the murder kit, and then leave it there and come back maybe a month, 2 months, a year later. And he knew where he had those kits buried, places people would never find them. And then he had everything he needed to complete his kill. Very methodical, right? And I'm like, most of the serial killers are in their own little way. They have their things, but the murder kit thing is like, wow, he really thought it out, because he's like, if I'm going to travel, if I get on a plane, I don't want to be tracked. I don't want to have weapons and stuff like that. Here's a shot of what this dude looks like right here. Kind of a younger guy. And again, I told you he had a daughter and he had a wife, and he was out raping and killing people for what? A couple of years. And they didn't know what the hell was going on. And this is a shot of a police detective with one of the drawings. And he's always got the upside down cross on the forehead here. This particular drawing with his blood says, "We are one." And then here's a shot of all of his victims. Supposedly, that's all we can surmise, because he never comped to all of them. Interesting how that one is like a goat head. You guys see that? Yeah, really, really freaky. And again, to do it in your own blood and stuff. So, interesting guy. If you can catch this on Netflix or Hulu, I forget what it's on, watch this documentary and tell me you didn't get caught up in it, because this guy was a trip. Here's a shot of him from June of 2012, and he's being interrogated by the police detectives here. And he always wanted coffee. He was always asking him for coffee. And of course, they give it to him because they're hoping he'd confess to more crimes that they knew he probably did. But he wouldn't give them all up. He just wouldn't do it. So an Anchorage police officer described him as kind of a murder addict who hunted victims in remote locations like parks, campgrounds, or hiking trails. An Army veteran, he was an Army veteran, a contractor. He studied other serial killers, but was very careful to say he had not patterned himself after any other serial killer. He wanted to be his own person. It's interesting, though, because he was an Army veteran. They talked to the guys that were in the armed services with him. They talked to people at his job. They loved him. Thought he was a great guy, normal guy. which is always what you hear, right? It's always that guy in the corner that lets you pick his flowers to give to your mom and stuff when you're a kid, and then you find out later he's burying bodies under the front porch or something. But this guy was just different than any of the other ones I read the cases on. So Israel is linked 11 killings to admitted serial killer Keys. Let's see, and are looking into possible ties to killing others in other countries. They know he killed a bunch of people, and they know he's been doing it forever. They just didn't catch him, and he never did cop to it, and he wasn't ever going to tell them. And again, this tells us here that he killed himself in December, about 3 months after his arrest in the slaying of an Anchorage, Alaskan coffee barista, which was, of course, the gal we showed you earlier in the coffee shop. Police said he admitted to at least 7 other slayings from Vermont to Washington State before his death. In a statement issued Monday afternoon, the FBI office in Anchorage said agents have now added 3 more to that grim tally based on his statements. The day he was arrested, I forgot where it was they found him, but they finally got him. And it was a big deal because it's one of those things where it's like all those years went by and nobody could get him. And then they got him. And I just think it's weird that he did all those drawings with his own blood. But I mean, he was a serial killer. I mean, you got to have something. The drawings, when you're looking at them, they remind me. I grew up with the Zodiac Killer in the Bay Area. And the drawings, when I look at them, kind of remind me of that a little bit. So, Isreal Keys. Yeah, if you see the documentary, check it out. It's super interesting, and it's just a trip. The guy was a trip, and the interviews when they're interrogating too are really interesting to watch. I wanted to talk about him because I'd never heard about him, so I encourage you to look it up if you're into that kind of stuff. I mean, like I said, we all know all the major serial killers because they get so much press and stuff when they do it. But this guy, man, he was under the radar and hiding those murder kits everywhere. And that's just really methodical to me. I mean, they're all methodical in their own way, but that one was one of the most interesting ones. And I wanted to share that with you guys. Isreal Keys. Look for it. You'll find it very interesting. That's the end of the podcast for today. I just want to say, pay attention and keep your eyes open. And let's just see what happens. Hopefully this whole thing will get figured out. But if not, I'm afraid of what might come. And I think everybody's already in that spot. If you're watching your social media, like I said, there's a lot being said out there. And it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that a lot of it doesn't make sense. Why are all these people appointed to those offices? They are not qualified. But again, are we okay with that? That's going to be something we're going to have to talk about again. Want to leave you with one thought. The truth always comes out in the end, no matter how hard anyone tries to hide it or stop it. Lies are just temporary delays to the inevitable. And there isn't anything more truthful for that or than that. So just kind of think about that. Hope you have a great week, everybody. We'll be back next Tuesday. I'm Chuck Oliveris, and this is We Need to Talk About This.